The program schedule for the day will be as follows: prayer, and then welcome speech by Dr. Milu Maria Anto, felicitation speech by Dr. Simi Verghese, webinar session on publishing papers, The Matrix of Research by Dr. Sreejesh, question and answer session, vote of thanks by Dr. Mary Paul. Before we start, I request you all to please mute all your audios so that we can avoid any disturbances. Now, I call upon Aishwarya Sunil, student of First BSc Psychology, Prajyoti Niketan College, for the prayer.
ഹൃദയത്തിൽ സ്നേഹത്തിൽ അരോമപ്രകാശം ചൊരിഞ്ഞിടുക ഇരുളാർന്ന ഹൃദയത്തിൽ സ്നേഹ.
Research is an integral part of farming. Although a lot of research happening all around, the accessibility to the public is very less, as we are ignorant about the actual essence of publication. IQAC of Prajyoti Niketan College, with this notion in mind, organizes a webinar on publication of papers, the matrix of research. On this occasion, I welcome our principal, Dr. Sreejesh, in his absence, who always motivates us for excellence in academics. Next, I especially welcome our resource person, Dr. Sreejesh S., who is well known for most of us as an expert in this area. On behalf of IQAC of Prajyoti Niketan College, I welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, I welcome our IQAC coordinator, Dr. Simi Verghese, who is a power pack for all these activities. Welcome, Dr. Simi Verghese. On behalf of IQAC Prajyoti Niketan College, I welcome all the delegates from various institutes who joined here to extract the research experience. Next, I welcome all my colleagues and students to this gathering. Once again, welcome all of you. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. For the felicitation speech, I call upon IQAC coordinator, Dr. Simi Verghese.
Respected founder, manager, and director, Reverend Dr. Harshajan Parayatin, Principal Dr. Sreejesh Paul, Chief Resource Person of the Day, Dr. Sreejesh, Dr. Binu P. Chako, IQAC Joint Coordinator, Dr. Milu Maria Anto, Organizing Secretary, Dr. Mary Paul, IQAC member, teachers and student delegates from different colleges, my dear colleagues and students. Good morning, everybody. Truly, I am overwhelmed at this juncture. It had been a long cherished dream of the IQAC of Prajyoti Niketan College to organize a webinar on research methodology as per UGC prerogatives, and the webinar on publishing papers, The Matrix of Research, by Dr. Sreejesh S., Assistant Professor, IIM Calicut, as its befitting culmination. Dr. Sreejesh is a much sought after resource person in this particular field of expertise. Sir, we are deeply indebted to you for accepting our invitation and giving your consent.
Yeah.
Enhancing the quality of research as a much needed benchmark in every academic institution these days. And this webinar is a humble step to inculcate research fervor in the minds of teachers and students. as the IQAC coordinator, I acknowledge the presence of all erudite academics and research scholars from various academic institutions and colleges. Let this webinar
by University Tripura, PhD in Management in the year 2014 from IBS Business School, IFHE deemed to be University, Hyderabad, Telangana. Dr. Sreejesh S. has marked his professional experience as assistant professor in IBS Business School from the year 2014 to 2015, in Cochin University of Science and Technology, Ernakulam, from 2015 to 2019, and is currently working as assistant professor in Indian Institute of Management, Kozhikode, since April 2019. There are 7 PhD scholars under Dr. Sreejesh's guidance. Dr. Sreejesh has made a total of 51 journal publications since the year 2010 to 2019 in various prominent journals, 3 book publications, 4 book chapter publications, and various case studies and research projects. Now, with all due respect, I invite Dr. Sreejesh S. for his session on our topic for today. Also, I request you all to kindly note your questions during the sessions, and at the end of the session, you guys could unmute yourself and ask a question or raise your ideas in the chat box. I request her to come in and begin the session.
Is it audible right now?
Yes, sir.
Is it audible?
Yes, sir.
Right, nice. Good morning, everyone. And before I begin my session, so if you have anything to ask or something like that, you know what you can do, you can unmute whenever you require, and afterwards you can mute yourself, then you can go back. Otherwise, you can also put your questions on the chat window.
Hello?
Just wait, actually. There is some network issues. I don't know where it's actually happening. So I'm not.
All right, sir.
Is it fine right now? Is it audible?
Yes, sir. It's audible.
Give me a second. Is it okay? Is it audible right now?
Yes, sir.
Right. So just tell me whenever there is a break in my connection, okay, so that I can correct it actually.
Sure.
Right. So before I start my session, just I want to ask you something. If you have some preferences, for example, today's 2-hour session, it's very short to discuss, you know, all the aspects of research and publication. And therefore, if you have any preferences, if you can tell me so that I can cover up these topics in my discussion. Somebody want to talk to me directly, also you can talk to me. And otherwise, you can write in your chat window so that I can understand that is what your preferences. Right. So you're talking about care listing. Okay. So I'll talk about that particular care listing. That Abdul asked a question with respect to care listing with respect to aided college interview. Extremely sorry that I can't answer that question because I don't have any understanding with respect to the interview process which is happening in aided colleges. I mean, but I can give you some understanding about care list and also I'll discuss in between. So interview process that I can't. So that primarily because I never been part of this particular aided college interview. That's the reason I can't. So any other things if you want to cover up? Any other? So project proposal, again, it's deviating from the area. Probably that you can request for another meeting or something like that because this discussion is all about research paper publications in journals, and probably my focus is that. And definitely Scopus Index Journal, and I'll talk about Anuradha asked a question, so I'll cover up, no issues. Otherwise, I have a plan to discuss some of the important issues. And remember, again, when I'm talking about all these, which is primarily based on my own experience, and I'm not referring any kind of textbook or something like that to give you some kind of understanding with respect. I'm just trying to explain my experience as a researcher, probably you can say around the last 10 years down the line. And in between, if you have any questions, and you can ask me. And remember very carefully that, you know, when I'm looking at things, which is, I told you, very primarily based on my experience, many times you also feel that, you know, a lot of things which you can connect your own real life experience. And probably during that time, you can ask me when I started my research, probably I started my research when I started doing my PhD. So during that time, you know, I got a lot of different questions in my mind with respect to research. Though I was doing actually PhD, at the beginning, I was not very much focused on research publications. But later on, I identified that, you know, research publication is so important because it actually create a uniqueness or a unique identity, right? So during that time, I have actually, you know, identified some very, very particular questions, and I'm trying to share my answer towards these questions. First, I'll discuss what are those questions which comes to my mind when I started my research. And the first question which comes to my mind when I started my research is the fundamental question that everyone asks, that is, do I need to publish in scholarly journals, right? So everyone asks a question that everyone asks the necessity of publishing in scholarly or science or Scopus or something like that. In our field, we have actually everything but their storyline. That is nothing but a storyline. I believe you understood what is storyline. Storyline is idea, right? So every paper, if you look at in top tier journals, they are not replicative studies. Everything is something different. Everything is something unique, right? So that uniqueness of the storyline is actually an important aspect of a great journal paper, right? I'll discuss actually how do you identify great storyline later. So in addition to that, you know, I also got another question, which is very, very important. I believe everyone will ask that question, right? It is nothing but if you look at any domain, it can be physics, chemistry, mathematics, any domain you look at, you have thousands of journals, almost 1,000 journals in that discipline, right? Especially in social science. We have many journals, ISS number, without ISS number, with the ranking, without ranking, with Scopus indexing, without Scopus indexing, right? So many different journals we can see. Fundamental question which comes to our mind is that, you know, we have actually a scholarly work, and what would be our criteria to choose a better journal to publish our paper? What is the ideal criteria? So that ultimately, as a researcher, I am getting citation, right? I need to be recognized. Is it so? So if you want to be recognized, or if you are expecting recognition in your discipline, definitely we need very good criteria, some very, very particular criteria, so that you can target the journalists. Therefore, in future, you'll get name and fame. Yes, once you decide to publish in scholarly journals, what criteria, that is in the sense, how do I write a paper? So how do I focus on my writing so that I can get into this top tier journal? Is it so? That is another important criteria. And above all, once you actually submit the paper, there is a very important stage that is called as peer review. Right? So peer review is nothing but when you submit the paper, it goes to expert readers, right? That is peers in your discipline, right? They are highly expertise in the field. Therefore, sometime when you get into their hands, you need to be very, very careful because you need to satisfy them. It's going to be a very tough job, right? It's not an easy job. And therefore, I was looking at what are the ways in which I can, satisfy my reviewers that when I submit a paper. And in addition to that, I've just assumed that you published a paper. Many times people feel that, yes, once you publish a paper, that's the end of the story. But that's not the end of the story. That's the beginning of the story. Because after publication, you always want citations, right? You are working for citations, right? Therefore, you need to disseminate or communicate your idea to a larger audience who are working in your domain so that, they will refer your work, they will read your work, and they will acknowledge your work. And so that you'll be, recognized, and so that you'll be a recognized or well-known person in your domain, right? Is it? So therefore, dissemination is also a very important step. And in addition to that, we are also looking at one important particular question that, how do I evaluate? I'm doing research, very good. Everything is perfect. But do I need to publish same set of journals every time? Or do I need to change my strategy to look at a different set of journals with a different rating or ranking, and so that I can evaluate my performance? Is it so? So it means that how do I evaluate my performance? What are the evaluation criteria probably I can use to evaluate myself in the field of research, right? These are the questions which probably I'm trying to address in this class. So if you want to add something more in between, you can tell me so that I can also address the same thing, right? Is it fine that I can go with these questions? I mean, again, I'm just giving you a direction that, it is very, very, very difficult to present everything, within, maximum 1.5 hours or something like that. So therefore, please understand that I'll be very, very, precise in terms of my own interaction. So therefore, please make sure that, you are taking it that way, so that I'm just trying to give you some kind of direction. That's it. So I can't give you everything or all the understanding with respect to the publication within 2 hours or 1.5 hours. It's very tough, right? Please understand that. And again, publication, I feel that, looking at the field of research and publication is like swimming. Swimming means you need to be there in the pond, right? Then only you can learn, right? You need to be there into the water. Then only you can understand. I can give you directions. So ultimately, you need to do yourself, right? Is it? So therefore, everything, please get as a direction. So, and direction, again, it's my own personal feeling or personal viewpoints, and sometimes you may feel it different, but still doesn't matter. But you can generalize. You can generalize, right? Is it fine that I can continue?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So first question everyone asks actually that why do you publish in scholarly journals? What benefit you are getting actually once you publish in scholarly journals, right? And many times people ask actually, so why don't you look at actually the ISS number journal on? So you are saying scholar. Some people say that it's not so tough to publish in scholarly because journal publication is actually 1 week time or 1 week task, right? It's not the case. Please remember that scholarly journal, hard work and patience, high level of thought process you need to put on, then only you will get through, right? Please make sure that, publishing in scholarly is not a joke. It's not a joke. And therefore, why are you looking at it, right? So I have some answers to that. I have some answers. So I believe you can see my screen, right? The second slide. I never used actually this platform. That's Google Meet. That's the reason I'm not very familiar. So we have Zoom or Teams or something like that, so that we usually involved in that. So therefore, I need to skip through my windows. So I believe you can see my second PPT, that is slide. Is it?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Right. So the first thing would be first question that everyone asks actually, what is scholarly journalism? So my answer is that depends on your teaching and research philosophy. high quality journals always publish high quality work. It means that you need to put your thought process to it, and you need to work very hard, then only you can get through. So you need to satisfy the reviewers. Once you satisfy the reviewers, definitely you will be damn good actually in your discipline. If you are,
Excuse me, sir.
yes.
So we're not able to view the slide. It's blank.
What about
Yeah,
right?
it's visible now.
Okay. So the problem with respect to this Google Meet is that, when I'm showing the PPT, I can't see the screen. That's a problem. So I need to minimize the screen, then I need to come down. That's a problem. So that's a disadvantage. I don't know how do we manage it, but anyway, I'll manage it. Right. So my teaching and research philosophy is slightly different. So as a teacher, I believe that I have equal contribution. Probably, definitely, you are going to be a good teacher. In the sense, probably many times you can feel that you are able to connect whatever you do in terms of your research into your classroom. So probably you can see the difference in your class delivery, or because I'm publishing. Let's assume that my colleague is publishing in very top tier journals, and he's altogether changing the culture of the institute, the culture of the department, right? And ultimately will change the culture of the entire college or the university or at the institution level, right? It means that, if you want to change a culture into, into a pure research come teaching culture, probably you need to start research, and especially in very top tier academic journals. And many times, money is also important. Some institutions in IIMs and all, we are getting money for publishing papers and presumed to be higher, and that is actually an indication of his academic. My interest lies in online marketing or advertising or related to that. Is it so? So it actually indicates the interest of the faculty or interest of the professor, right? So top tier journal publishing, that definitely indicate that that person is interested area is this one, and he got an interest in this area. And in addition to that, definitely it actually shows or gives you a pathway to your great career objective. If you have a great career objective ahead in your mind, definitely you need to look at very top tier academic journals, because otherwise very tough to nowadays, very, very tough to get through the interview process. Because if you look at the situation right now, everyone is a PhD, and now in the institutions want to differentiate, right? So if you look at, you are from X or Y university, and all of them are actually UGC recognized or MHRD approved, doesn't matter, right? But how do we differentiate people? And the only way we can differentiate people based on their kind of publication or the type of publication or the kind of journals they published, right? And that's the reason I said that if you have a great career ahead, and definitely you need to target publications, right? I believe you understood why we need to publish in scholarly journals. What's the benefit of doing it, right? These are all benefits which I personally felt that, and because of that, as a person, as a researcher, you need to be there into scholarly journal publication. So in addition to that, there are some other reasons as well. What are the other reasons? Probably, yes, I believe that as a teacher, I got some responsibilities. The first and most important responsibility is that I'm a teacher. I need to be part of theory building. Is it so? I need to participate in the knowledge enhancement. Is it right? So it means. So I feel that after some point in time, you feel very much bored with this particular area, whatever work you do. And my gut feeling is that if you start doing a very serious research, I can assure you that you'll be in my field, and it creates a passion there in the domain. So that passion is always important in this particular. Otherwise, I don't think actually this you can't enjoy. If without research, I believe rarely people enjoy, because otherwise job become 9 to 4 very critical component of faculty performance assessment, right? Even it actually carry higher weightage in journals. The second question is that what makes these scholarly journals so good or so recognized or so reputed, right? So I told you that every scholarly journals, high quality journals or reputed journals in your domain, in any domain, there could be series of journals which are highly recognized by academicians in that domain. And similarly in marketing also, we have pretty highly reputed journals. If you look at all these high reputed or top tier journals, they have something different. They are conveying something different, right? They have some unique idea, some unique message. Right? I don't find any kind of replicative work in these journals. It means that they are always trying to convey a very unique idea of the researcher, right? And even when you're submitting the paper to the editor and the reviewers, and the editor and the reviewers both are actually looking at the uniqueness of the idea you're presenting. It means that a great paper targeting a great journal should have very unique idea. So otherwise, very, very difficult to get through the journal. So now you may ask, yes, I have a great idea. What do you mean by great idea? Great idea. So I may say that, great idea means you are providing something to your readers. Whosoever be your readers, who are the people working in your domain, you need to give something. It means that after reading my paper, let's assume that they're in this domain at all, and very novel insights providing, very novel. The kind of information they provide and how they wrote the information in this paper, the quality of information is extraordinary. And after some time, when you read the paper, you also get some direction. That is also one of the important features of your great idea or great paper. And it is interesting, and ultimately it is understandable. Many times people feel that if you complicate your paper, you may get through. No, it's not the case. So ultimately, you should be familiar with your area. Let's just definitely, if when I'm so good at the area, I'm talking about the area very specifically. Don't look at the broad area of advertising. Rather, I'm just looking at actually online advertising means I'm trying to specialize in that domain. I'm trying to read the papers in that area, so that whenever new paper comes into that field, definitely I can understand and whether this idea is unique or novel, provide quality of information or provide directions or not, or it's interesting because I'm familiar. Is it so? Is it so? Right? And that's the reason I said that, and after identifying heard of, right? So Science Direct is a database from where you can download papers related to your domain. And for example, if you are actually identifying advertising as your broad area from advertise, and you can probably identify which are those papers which is actually very relevant in your area. Likewise, you can also do a search in other platforms such as EBSCO. Have you heard of EBSCO?
Yeah.
EBSCO, okay. There is another platform called as Proquest. Have you heard of Proquest? I'll type it so that you can. The Proquest. Science Direct. These are the platform, right? And Emerald. Look at in Sage as well, right? Emerald, you can find, yeah. So when I'm getting actually, when I want to work in that domain, probably first thing what I do, I'll identify some relevant keyword. Don't look at one's keyword, relevant keywords like, online marketing and online advertisement, something like that. I can use alternates. I mean, in the sense, if you're not able to access, make sure that at least you can access through some other libraries. Like, if you want to access IMK library, you can come down to IMK library. You can visit our library. You can download papers. So it's free of cost, right? So like the 500 papers. Can I refer all the 500 papers? Is it possible? You can delete that paper. You can exclude that paper. You understood the point? Exclude that paper. Let's assume that out of 500 papers, you are able to locate 450 papers, right? That's the reason I went to almost all the databases. I showed that, I have downloaded almost all the papers into my area, right? Yes. So generally what I'll do, if I have a very large list of papers, I will use some screening criteria. I'll use some commonly accepted screening criteria. I call it commonly accepted screening criteria. Commonly accepted in the sense, even if you refer this particular screening published in a journal, that is part of Scopus or not. that is part of Scopus or not. Scopus is the indexing agency which is popular. I won't say that extremely high quality, but it's okay. It's okay, right? Now, so if a journal paper it's not part of Scopus, then I'll eliminate that paper, because that I said that if it is not part of Scopus, it's not of high quality. Therefore, it's better not to retain that paper. I'll eliminate. So I won't even refer the paper for my future purpose, and because the journal, I presume that the paper is not of good quality because it's not part of Scopus. Now, you understood the word Scopus actually. You know how to look at a Scopus listing? You know how to look at Scopus listing? You want to see that? Or you want to understand how to look at whether it's part of Scopus or something like that? Yes. Yeah. So right now I'm just slightly deviating. I'm just going back to Scopus. I'm showing you. Yeah, just wait. Just wait. So I'll show you how to look at Scopus, from where you can locate Scopus, right? Give me a second. Yes. Can you see it right now?
No, sir.
Yes. Just wait, then you'll get. Now, and after that, probably you can look at Shimago. In Shimago, you can see the journal and journal information detail. Here, can you see something? They have provided the ranking. They said that this journal is in two fields, actually, the strategy and management, and it's also actually looking at tourism, leisure, and hospitality management. So these are the domains of these particular journals. In both the domains, they have a ranking of Q1. Right, you can see that, right? Is it doing a search actually for this journal? So it is there, right? Is it? So it means that this part of Scopus, is it so? Right? Once you click on that, you will be directed to a page, right? So I'm just clicked on that. Can you see something here? It shows that they are into strategy and management domain, and also they are into tourism, leisure, and hospitality. Is it? I believe you can see right now.
Yes, sir.
They are publishing papers in these two domains, and here mentioned that quartiles. Can you see quartiles here? So here Shimago provides general ranking in terms of quartiles. They quartiles in the sense, 25 percentile, right? Is it so? So they are trying to say that this is a Q1, belongs to Q1. It means that they actually tells that this is a Q1 rank journal. It means that all the superior 25% of the journal which comes on the top of the hierarchy, they will call it as Q1. They will call it as Q1. Q1 means high quality, very high quality journals comes in Q1 category. And strategy and management area, as well as in tourism leisure, this particular journal belongs to Q1 category. Right? So that gives you an understanding of the ranking of journals. So ranking. It means that you can easily say that this is a very or high quality journal. Is it? Is it so? Let's assume its ranking is Q1. You know what is the lowest ranking? Q4. Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. The lowest ranking is Q4. When a journal is there in Q4, that shows that the journal is there in Scopus, but it's not of high quality, but it's okay. That's the reason it's there in Scopus, right? Is it so? And you can, let's assume that you have a paper, and that paper is not of high quality, not of very high quality, but at the same time you want to publish in some Scopus listed journals. Probably at that point in time, you can target Q4 or Q3 journals. If you directly target Q1 journals, it's going to be very tough to crack the journal. So looking at the quality of the paper, looking at the rigor which you actually apply in the paper, you can target the journal, because this way Shimago will help you out in terms of understanding the journal ranking. I believe you understood the point. Have you understood the point?
Yes, sir. We understood.
All right. So any questions about Shimago and Scopus? Fine, you understood that. What is Shimago or what is Scopus, right? Is it so? Yeah. So in that case, so what I do, first thing when I download all these papers, I'll make sure that is part of Scopus. It can be Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4, right? And doesn't matter. Now, let's assume that after looking at Shimago ranking or Scopus indexing, you found that around 250 papers comes into your Scopus indexing. 250. Okay. Now, you're able to identify this paper, right? Is it so? I mean, all these 250 papers is part of Scopus index journal. Now, can you go with all these 250? Now, look at the screening criteria. We are looking at, in a step-by-step manner. Is it? A step-by-step manner, the first stage, second stage, third stage. So what is the next strategy? What's the next strategy? Will you read all the 250 papers? Sort out again. Rohita, how do you sort out? Will you do a random selection again out of it? No? Then I need a specific criteria. Is it so? So that in future, if I communicate that, I can say that this is what the criteria applied. So it depends on you actually. If you're working for a thesis, probably 250 papers required. But if you're working for a journal paper, probably 250 is too much. Is it? Thesis 250 is okay. Is it so? Now what I probably do, I will retain only Q1 and Q2 listed. And Q3 and Q4 probably I'll eliminate. Have you understood the point? So what I'm trying to say that I'll try to retain only Q1 and Q2, and Q3 and Q4 probably I'll eliminate. Then again, the subset would be very small. Is it so? Q3 and Q4 means the quality would be assessed based on Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. Okay, but the problem I'll tell you, Rohit, the problem is that probably if you select out of 250, if you only simply look at Q1, probably you may find around 10 to 15 or 20, maximum 30 papers or 30 papers. There is a high chance and you'll find less number of journals in Q1. Very, very less, because only 25%. Is it so? High chance. So you may end up in actually getting very less number of journal papers in that case. I mean, that's the reason I said that you need to make a trade-off looking at the number, right? And you take a call actually. If you have too many again in Q1, definitely you can take a call, Rohit. Accordingly, you can take. It depends on your priority. Okay, let's assume that even after looking at only Q1, you found that around 100 plus papers, 110 papers. Is it so? then go ahead. Fine, no issues. Right? Otherwise, if you find there are less number of papers, probably Q2 also you can add it. Again, if you feel that Q3 also added, you can do it. Depends on the situation you have. But make sure that you have a systematic process of doing it. I believe you understood the point. Yes. So after that, so what I do after doing the screening criteria, I'll start reading the paper one by one, right? Probably I will start reading the first paper to the latest paper, right? First paper onwards, I'll start reading. And one by one, I'll take some time. Let's assume that at the end of the day, you're able to identify around 70, 75 paper. And you're doing a research paper, not a thesis. Thesis you can incorporate, very exhaustive list of. But still, my suggestion is that whenever you are looking at something, you just follow some very authentic criteria. Very, very authentic criteria. A journal, I suggest around, citations would be around 40 to 50. That's a optimal number, 40 to 50. If you cross that also, it creates a negative impression. Again, whenever you are citing 40 to 50, that make sure, let's assume that I'm targeting a top tier journal. In that I'm citing very lower level journal, it's not creating kind of image, it will create a bad impression. So always what you do when you are actually looking at a top tier paper or top tier journal as your target journal, try to cite very top tier papers in your paper. That also always create a good impression. Right? I believe you understood the point. Is it clear? Right. So let's assume, Anita, you are working in your domain and you are an extraordinary researcher. You want to be an extraordinary researcher. You are targeting very high level journals. You are not happy with Scopus. If you are not happy with the Scopus, you are trying to look at a very high level ranking. Is it a very high level? You need something above, because if you look at Scopus covers very exhaustive list of journals, right? Is it? And now Anita is not looking at actually, that list. Anita is looking at highly reputed list, followed by very top tier academicians in the world. In that, what is that listing? Probably you can look at. What is that listing? What is the listing? Which is called as Web of Science. What is that? You can look at whether the paper is part of Web of Science or not Scopus. What is that? Web of Science. Web of Science. Right? You want to see the Web of Science platform? No idea, Abdul. I never heard of actually cost journals and all. No idea. Seriously. Right. No. So Web of Science, you want to see the Web of Science platform? Can you see my screen right now? You can type this, but I don't think you will get that because we are having subscription. That's the reason we are able to get. It's part of Clarivate Analytics. So I believe you can see Web of Science, is it? Here you can search a journal. Sorry. Give me a second. Give me a second, I'll show you. It's a paid platform. Probably if you search in your database or your give me a second. I believe you can see my screen, right?
Yes,
Just
sir.
yeah, just give me a second. Yeah. Now, can you see my screen? So it means that it's part of the journal which I type, that is International Journal of Hospitality Management, which is part of Web of Science, because I can see this journal in Web of Science. And they also gives you something called as impact factor. Is it so? This impact factor is called as journal impact factor given by Clarivate Analytics. What is that? Clarivate Analytics. Can you see here? Clarivate. Previously, it was known as Thomson Reuters impact factor. Thomson Reuters impact factor. Right now, it's called as Clarivate Analytics impact factor. Clarivate Analytics. What is the impact factor? You can see here. Is it visible? Why you people are not talking?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
All right. So, right. So that also I'll address up there. So there is Clarivate Analytics, right? So this is Clarivate Analytics impact factor. And here, this generally people talk about impact factor, but if you ask me a question that which is the accepted impact factor, definitely I'll say that this is the most accepted impact factor across the world, And so Clarivate Analytics actually provides an indexing. That indexing, we call it as Science Citation Indexing for Science Journal. That is called as SCI indexing. SCI indexing. That is Science Citation Index. That is provided by Clarivate Analytics, right? And Social Science Journal, they are giving us indexing called as SSCI. Can you see SSCI here? SSCI, Social Science Citation Index. Social Science Citation Index. And this science citation and social science citation indexing are very, very popular indexing services. Very popular indexing services. Very popular in the sense, which is much superior than that of Scopus, because it actually covers very limited number of journals in comparison with Scopus. If Scopus covers 1,000 journals, probably Web of Science covers, or Clarivate Analytics or SSCI covers probably around 200 or 300 journals. So it means that if your journal is there in SSCI or CI, it means that this very high quality journal. If you look at some of the foreign universities, that is American universities, they are simply looking at SSCI rather than that of Scopus. That's the reason I said that if you are looking at something which is common to everyone across the world, probably SSCI is the one, right? Again, you may start taking a lot of time. Definitely, these are high quality journals, and high quality journals almost take minimum would be 1 year in terms of acceptance. Minimum. I don't think actually within that minimum would be 9 months to 1 year. That's what I observed. And otherwise, it's very tough to get through these top quality journals. And high quality, they have a periodic review process, round 1, round 2, round 3. For example, when you submit a paper, it will take minimum 2 to 3 months for first review. And again 2 to 3 months for second review. There will be minimum 3 rounds of reviews. That's the reason I said that minimum 9 months. On an average 9 months. That is actually, minimum. And maximum can be 2 years, 2.5 years. In terms of acceptance, I'm talking about. So therefore, if your aspiration is to get a publication within 2 months, 3 months time, I don't think no top quality or high quality journal will give you a publication within 2 months time. I never heard of. So it's a dream. That's it. That's what I'm trying to communicate. Right? I believe you understood the point. So far what we discussed, we discussed that, what is Scopus, what is SSCI indexing, and SSCI indexing given by Clarivate Analytics, which is part of Web of Science. Is it Web of Science? Is it? Now, Web of Science provided a journal citation report every year. Web of Science provides journal citation report every year. And in that journal citation report, we can see whether the journal is actually part of Web of Science or not, and what is the impact factor as per Clarivate Analytics, and which are the journals or which are the spaces where it got citation. What are the papers we got citation? What is the number of citations? So we have all the evidences. And this is very popular citation, right? So please remember, so I said that JCR is Journal Citation Report published by Clarivate Analytics, right? And which is part of Web of Science. It's part of Web of Science. They provide an indexing for science as well as social science journals. Science journal is called as SCI indexing. Social science journal is called as SSCI indexing. Is it clear to you all? And now, So what I'm trying to communicate to you that if your aspirations are on the higher level, probably you need to look at SCA indexing or SSCA indexing. That's what I said. But SSCA indexing or SCA indexing, if you look at, you may find very, very less number of journal papers, very, very less number of journal papers. Shabir, there is no ideal value of impact factor, I'll tell you. Again, different domains got different impact factor. I'll tell you first thing. For example, if you look at natural science or there is a journal called as Nature. You know, what is the average, what is the impact factor of Nature recently? Around 32 plus. 32 plus. Right? If you look at social science journal, we'll find journal which is carrying an impact factor of around, 2 to 3 or something like that. That is an ideal range. If you're getting 2 impact factor or 3 impact factor, that is going to be a great journal. So that's what. So again, social science, you can't expect a journal with a high impact factor around 10, 20 or something like that, because social science, we have very exhaustive list of journals. Therefore, getting a citation in that journal or any journal is actually going to be tough. Right? And therefore, in social science, we can expect that the impact factor is relatively lower compared to, again, that is also true in case of some other discipline like, statistics, that is, or mathematics and all. But some areas, impact factor is going to be very, very higher, right? And Divya, you are talking about social science citation index. You want to, you need some more explanation about SSCI? Okay, fine. Okay, fine. So, so far it's clear to you, right? Is it so? What is Scopus? What is Web of Science? And under Scopus, how do you check Scopus indexing? And what is the meaning of Shimago? And Shimago provides ranking. And when it comes down to Web of Science provide an impact factor in the form of Clarivate Analytics impact factor. They also provide indexing, SSCI or SCA indexing. Is it so? That's what we discussed. Is it clear to you? I believe this so far is clear to you, right? Whatever we discussed. Is it okay? I can go further? Yes. So far I've been discussing that, how do you screen? How do you actually use, what criteria you use to include and exclude papers? So that's what we are discussing. So let's assume depends on your priority. Depends on, that's what I said, actually depends on you. You can decide which criteria you want to use. Is it Scopus or Web of Science? And if you use Web of Science, definitely the kind of number of papers which you are going to get would be less. At the same time, the kind of journals which you are going to identify is of high quality, right? And that depends on you, that where you want to position yourself. You want to position yourself into a care listing, or you want to position into Scopus listing, or you want to position yourself into Web of Science. That it's up to you actually. So ultimately it's your level at which you can say that yes, I am comfortable with scale listing, that is sufficient. And depends on the listing, probably the kind of rigor which you want to put would differ. For example, care listing, probably you can easily get through because you will find very exhaustive list of journals there. At the same time, some of the journals are not having high quality. But when you look at Scopus is slightly superior. And there, if you want to get through, you need to put some additional effort. Especially Q1 and Q2, you need to put very great effort, otherwise you can't get through. Right? Now, when it comes down to your Clarivate Analytics or Web of Science, definitely it's superior indexing. And at the same time, in that SSCI or a CI, if you want to target a journal with high impact factor in that domain, it's again going to be very, very tough. It's going to be very, very tough. That's what I said. So I believe you understood the point, right? So now you can position accordingly. You can target. And my suggestion is that as if you are a beginner, probably you can start from Scopus, right? You can start from Scopus probably around Q4 to Q3 to Q2 to Q1, and thereafter or after some point in time, you can shift your level to Web of Science and look at only impact factor or SCA indexing to publish your paper. Otherwise, better. That is after some point in time. And again, you will actually ask me another question that if I'm putting this much work, hard work, I'm not getting any actually kind of incentive or something. Why should I put effort? But still, remember, many things we cannot quantify in terms of money, but still many times we can quantify these things in terms of your recognition, reputation as an academician. That is very, very important, right? As that's the reason I said, right? So I said that in terms of literature review, right? Been saying that, you need to screen some papers and we need to eliminate. My suggestion is that if you want to create a great idea, you need to read the literature in that domain. That is a must condition. That is a must condition, right? That's a must condition. So what you need to do after getting the literature, you download all the papers, eliminate some of the relevant papers based on the criteria which you are applying, and afterwards what you can do. Okay, I'll tell you. I'll tell you. Don't worry. I'll tell you structure of the paper. How do you write the paper? That time I'll tell you. So then what you can do? You can do a great literature review, and after reading literature review, after doing a great literature review, what you will do? Just develop your idea. I'm pretty sure that at the end of the day, if you read the 75 papers, if you read, let's assume 75 papers, you are identified that as good papers. Definitely at the end of the day, the idea which you can generate, or the knowledge which you are actually able to understand from the domain is going to be extraordinary. So, I mean, it is nothing but as a practice. It's like, you need to develop over a period of time. It's not will happen within a 1 day or 2 day time. Actually, you need to wait for it. That's the reason many times I feel that, many people, what they do, when they want to start their PhD, what they do simply, the university will give a date. 2 days before, they will prepare a proposal. They will submit the proposal to the university. And during the presentation, the committee will ask some questions, and finally, based on their suggestions, you'll revise a proposal and you'll submit it. But when you actually come to the actual practice, you can find that you haven't read proper literature review or done proper literature review. Everything, you don't have strong foundation in it. Now the proposal which you develop is actually it's not looking good. And that's what everyone, actually, I believe everyone in this particular group may directly or indirectly got this kind of experience from your life. Right. So please don't do that. When you're looking at a particular idea, please try to develop this idea after a very serious literature search and literature review. Right. And unless otherwise, if you do a straight writing, and what will happen ultimately leads to very, very vague idea, or you can say very weak idea. And at the same time, you can't assure that whatever idea you do is already done or not, you don't know, right? So make sure that the idea is not there as such. Even if it is there, your idea is so unique because there are some other papers, your idea is so superior than that of that paper because of this reason. So you can identify the reason from the literature. Please make sure that you are reading the area in detail. That is, I'm telling, if you ask me a question that if you are a PhD student, if you want to do great papers, what play a critical role? I'll say the literature review play a critical role because it'll give you understanding, a great understanding. Again, one more thing. If you start reading literature, you will understand how to conduct research, first thing. Because you want to know how to conduct research, right? It's reading papers is the best way to understand how to conduct research, right? And how to write a paper. For example, if you have a dream journal in your mind, after reading some papers, automatically the style comes to your mind. If you want to be a great writer in terms of journal papers, probably you need to read papers from the journal. That's it. Otherwise, no other way. I mean, you can't be a great writer. I mean, journal paper altogether a different game where always you need to present things in a socially acceptable way. How do you understand that social acceptable way? From reading papers. That's it. Now, so next question is that we understood the fact that how do you generate idea? I discussed that the idea generation probably from your existing literature. That's what so even if you have something in your mind, you need to validate that this idea is not as such existing. Even if existing, your idea is superior than that of idea. So make sure that you're having proper reading. Now, so after doing literature search, next question comes to my mind is that how do I target journals? That I answered already. How do you target journals, right? So in my case, definitely if I read 70 papers, definitely I can identify what would be my dream journal. Is it so? If you read 70 papers, at least from 20 different journals, right, in your area, and definitely you can identify or you can see which is the journal you can target. And how do you identify? Look at look at a journal, look at the papers, which most of the papers comes into X journal, let's assume. Most of your papers, let's assume that while referring most of the paper, you found the majority of the papers published in Journal of Business Research. In that case, my target paper or target journal would be Journal of Business Research, right? Is it so? Otherwise, if you feel that I'm not capable enough to publish in these kind of, you just come down, go back to Scopus, look at, Scopus Q3 or Q4. You can do it. What's the problem? Or if you feel that your level is somewhat upper, then go to Scopus, look at Q2 journals, fine. You can identify the level. Is it so? It's not a tough job, but my suggestion is that you always follow some criteria which is consistent. In the sense, I have some issues with respect to care listing. I never looked at care listing because first thing, I'm looking at the institution priority. So our institution won't accept care listing. That's first thing. And second is that, when I'm looking at my own journals, I just want to make sure that whatever journals I publish today, it'll be there in that ranking or rating forever. It means it's going to be a game changer in the domain. So I always keep some ideal journals in my mind. So I have some kind of dream journals in my mind always. Probably even when I started my research also, I got some kind of journals from in the hierarchy. So I'm just doing it actually. So every time when I publish, next journal is this one. I'm targeting that one, accordingly I'm doing it. So my suggestion is that read the area so that we can identify. Read the area so that you can identify the idea. Read the area, you can understand the research. Is it so? So I'll say that in research, if you ask me the weightage of literature review, I'll say that 60% weightage is for literature review. Doing a right literature review in the sense you read and understand. And why you feel that you are not a great researcher, you are not reading your area. That's the reason you are not able to flourish or you're not able to do wonders. Right? So far it's clear to you. Is it clear to you all?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Fine. Yeah. So I believe you are understood how do you identify it. So I would use my dream journals, or in your case, you can start with Scopus listing or Web of Science listing. Accordingly, you can identify, right? And definitely Scopus indexed versus Web of Science index journal. Definitely, they may give you some kind of recognition because they are very good journals in there or in your field. I'm pretty sure, right? And try to look at only that kind of journals. And followed by that, the next question would be how to write a paper. How to write a paper. That is very, very critical decision, is it so? And how to write a paper, I'll tell you the strategies to look at or target your paper. First thing would be after identifying the idea. In my case, at least, I rarely do papers in my own way, actually, in the sense, I always try to get some co-authors with me because, frankly speaking, if you look at time is a constraint, right? Is it so? You cannot work for 24 hours, right? Is it? And again, many times we feel that time is not sufficient, right? So we need extra time, is it? So many classes, so many meetings, right? So after that, getting time for research is quite tough, is it? So therefore, looking at that, I always look at some of my co-authors, or I'll identify some co-authors after getting some idea in my mind. Probably I'll discuss with my co-author or co-authors. I'll fix a meeting and I'll explain this idea. This is what my idea. I just want to do a paper in this area. Right, and what do you feel about that idea? And probably they will give you. And remember, when you're looking at the co-authors, and make sure that they're also at least familiar in the area. Don't approach a co-author which no way connected with the area, because they can give you an understanding. Many times when you approach a person, he's not into the area, he may give you some comments, but it won't be very good comments. In the sense, it's not valuable to your area or valuable to your improvement of your idea. And better to approach a person who is actually working in the domain. And it's possible you can identify a co-author, and if you're a beginner, possible you can identify a co-author which he or she did some kind of publication in the domain. So once you discuss the idea, probably he can explain the merit and demerits of this idea. right? You argue, doesn't matter actually. Don't feel that he's criticizing your idea. Rather, just consider that what points he's suggesting and whether it's valuable or not. And probably you be ready with that. And if you are not ready, and probably you can tell him, I'll be back to you later. You can tell him, and after that again you can fix another meeting. You can convince him if you feel that better conviction is required, and you can go ahead actually convince him after some point in time. And 2 to 3 times I'll interact with my co-author, and finally we'll shape the idea in the sense, even though when I developed or when I got the idea was not in a shape mode, in the sense, I got a broad idea, but still I got some kind of uncertainty. Even after discussing with my co-author, he actually got some kind of, because he's a third person, he's not at all aware of. Whenever we get an idea, sometimes we'll be biased. When we discuss with third person who is familiar with that discipline, probably he will give very neutral opinion. So if he's ready, probably you can start working for a paper. And when you're working for a paper, first thing what I'll do, we'll decide which is a target journal. First and most important decision I'll ask my co-author that, yes, if this is the idea, what do you feel about this idea, and which would be the target journal? And probably he'll say that, can you look at the literature, and in which journal probably these kind of papers are publishing? I'll look at the area, I'll say that yes, X is a journal, probably majority of the papers are published. Shall we work for a paper in this journal? If he's accepting, I'll say yes, fine, we'll go ahead, right? And in that case, what we do, and we'll make sure that I'll say that I will do this, you do that, right? Probably what I'll do, I'll say that this is my idea, I will develop the idea further, I'll provide you the revised write-up. Okay, revised write-up of my hypothesis or something like that. You'll say that I'll look at methodology part. Right now I'll prepare a methodology structure, I'll get back to you. So probably fix a time and make sure that you're responding on time, and do the interaction in a very serious perspective. Some people, what they do, they will fix the meeting, they will not conduct the meeting at all. They will skip the meeting forever and they'll go, and finally the paper will not happen. Make sure that when you're getting some idea, you're just noting down the idea and you are starting right. You are just started your writing, right? When you started your writing, afterwards you can improvise the idea. Don't try to wait to get a perfect idea. You won't find it. It's very tough to get a perfect idea. Rather get something, an improvised idea after a series of interaction, after a series of reading, and every time you revise the writing, and make sure that every sentence in your writing is every sentence. And in between, what you can do, you can prepare the questionnaire and you can start collecting data. Remember, this can be done getting consensus from your co-author. Make sure that you are developing the data, or collecting the data after confirming the hypothesis, and collect the data and come back. I'll tell you, Selena, I'll tell you, don't worry. And you just write it and present it. So when you're doing it, and keep the target journal in your mind. So it means that when I'm targeting JBR, Journal of Business Research, for my future work, and I know that what kind of requirements JBR carry. For example, JBR requires a 45-page limitation, because JBR requires, your paper should be within 45 pages, 2 spacing. First thing, probably around 8,000 to 10,000 words, and 2 spacing they requires, and they need a unique referencing style. So I know everything, right? And generally JBR paper, I can understand the structure of the paper. So everything I'll write, actually, I'll look at that journal in my mind, and accordingly I'll write. So because it means that I'm writing for the journal. Now, when it comes down to my paper, if you ask me, what is the structure? The structure, to understand the structure, and my suggestion is that definitely you are selecting a journal from your readings, right? Is it so? You have done a lot of readings, and you're selecting and you're citing most of the papers in your paper from that journal only. That's the reason that journal become very suitable avenue. Is it so? Is it? For example, if I am trying to publish in a journal, publish in the next journal, let's X is a journal, target journal, publish in X, but none of my citation is from actually X journal, then the journal is not suitable. Is it? Is it so? Definitely, when you send the paper, if the editor look at your references, if the editor finds that there is no reference from the same journal, he will outrightly reject your paper, because that shows that your paper carry no relevance with respect to, or no match with respect to journal objectives. That's the reason you haven't cited any of the papers from the same journal. Is it so? No, I'm not. I mean, I'm just summarizing. I can share you the slides and all. I'm just summarizing. Okay. The slide is very exhaustive slide actually. That's the reason I'm not. If I start presenting this slide, it will take actually 2 days time. That's the reason, right? So I'm just summarizing the question so that you can get an understanding about that, right? Is it fine? I believe you are getting the points, right? Are you getting the points?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
It's clear. Right. So I told that I am writing a paper for the journal, and you understood that how do you identify the journal, because most of my readings, most of my readings, I found that journal is actually comes to the picture, and also when I'm actually writing the paper, most of the citation is from same journal. Then that is a suitable avenue for your publication. Now I will go to the journal web page. I'll see. Yes, there is a page in almost all the journal web pages that's called as author guidelines. Author guidelines. Almost all the journals you can see author guidelines, right? And I'll look at the author guidelines, and I will try to follow this guideline very meticulously, very meticulously. The sense, every sentence I write, I try to follow that guideline. I won't even deviate. Right? Even also I communicate to my co-author that when you're writing, please make sure that you're following the guideline. And whenever he writes something, and he will send it back to me, and I will see, and I will also suggest some corrections. I'll see that you're writing, if you look at the intro, I'm not very clear with your introduction, because I didn't understand the intro. Because if you're not happy with the intro, and you need to tell him that, I'm not very clear, can you tell me this is what you meant? In that case, there is some deviation from that. In that case, can you revise it so that we can modify it? Because it's actually a common objective. For a common objective, even if you write 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, doesn't matter. So ultimately, you are targeting. You have a great target. Is it so? And rewriting is always required, especially for beginners. And you need to write and write and write. You will be fed up with the writing. And many people, what they do, they'll compromise their writing style. When they write, they feel that yes, the first sentence is not very clear to me. It is fine. They will understand. So they will understand. If you are not able to understand, means how come they will understand? Please make sure that every sentence carry a meaning, and if having connections and it's meaningful and it create an interest. If you feel that there is something wrong, delete. That is right. And how do you understand the writing style? Probably what I'll do, I'll identify some journal papers which I feel that this style is very good. There are different ways in which we can write the style. So sometime I'll identify some papers, some journal papers, I'll share to my co-author, I'll ask the co-author that this style is good actually. Style in the sense, general positioning of the paper is good actually. Shall we follow the style for our paper also? So if he say yes, we'll follow, then we will follow that style. Right? If he say no, we can probably modify it a little bit in this way, then look at the logic which he's actually trying to provide, and ultimately looking at that, you can accept. And that is actually, again, all these processes require is very good chemistry between your co-authors. It's not like, if you consider that there is, and your co-author is your enemy, nothing is going to happen. So many times we need very good co-authors. You can understand your co-author, and your co-author can understand you. Is it? For example, you are asking question, if some co-authors will consider that, he's criticizing me or he's questioning me, the paper will not happen. I always appreciate if somebody asks me some questions. If I feel that, yes, there is a meaning in it, I'll appreciate that. So that is always required. That is always required. We need to develop that habit. Right? Yes. Now, when I'm presenting the paper, when I'm preparing the paper, generally, in any journal, there are some generic guidelines. Generic guidelines in the sense, there is a title. And title, I try to keep the title as very short title most of the cases. I'll keep my title within 15 to 20 words. 15 to 20 words. Very short title. I always prefer very short title. And Some people, write the title where they specify the context. For example, they say that an empirical study in Kerala context or something like that. Don't do that unless until it demands, because it actually restricts the scope of the paper. For example, if you write a paper in Kerala context, many times the journal is an international journal, right? Is it? Now, when the editor look at the title, that title itself specifies something, the editor feel that the scope of the paper is very limited, it's better not to accept the paper, right? And make sure that, and again, my suggestion is that when you read the literature related to your domain, definitely you can identify a good title. But again, if you feel that there is a modification required, please modify it. 15 to 20 words either, don't make too much. And again, comes to abstract, and second one is abstract. And different journals demand different type of abstract. Some journals like Emerald journals demand structured abstract. Elsevier journals or Taylor and Francis or Wiley journals require a simple paragraph of 150 to 200 words. That's it. So look at the journal, provide a title, afterwards abstract. And if it is actually an abstract of one paragraph, 150 words, try to limit your abstract within 150 words. Remember, abstract is nothing but the whole summary about the paper. And this you can write after completing the paper. Don't write it before. This is nothing but the summary, the abstract of the paper. It's not a conclusion. Okay, many times what people do, people write a conclusion in the abstract. Abstract is equal to conclusion. Don't do that. It's summary about the paper. Probably some journals demand a 150 words abstract and 200 words abstract, maximum 250 words. Look at that and follow that. And just below the abstract, you can see keywords. Set of keywords, 5 to 7 keywords. And whenever you are providing keywords, my suggestion is that try to provide very relevant keywords. Relevant in the sense, for example, when you're providing some keywords, online marketing, your area is in the online. If you give online marketing as a keyword, probably if a person, let's assume that your paper is getting accepted, afterwards somebody search your paper comes to your search engine, right? So keyword is for actually, getting the paper in the search engine. So, right, search engine friendly keywords you give, very popular keywords, so that, in future you will, people come to know about your paper easily, right? So identify relevant keyword, take your time, think and identify which are the relevant keywords your paper, and identify 5 to 7 keywords and provide that, right? And thereafter, after the abstract keyword and all, I'll look at the introduction. Introduction, generally I have a focus, depends on the page restrictions. For example, if a journal demand 8,000 words paper, or the journal demand 10,000 words paper, or the journal demand 12,000 words paper. So if you look at all the three, it depends on the page limit or requirements, I'll change my introduction. If a journal demands 6,000 words paper, probably I'll make sure that my intro is very short. I'll make sure that my intro is very, very short. You understood the point? So introduction, generally ideal case, I'll try to restrict my intro to 2 page in 2 spacing, maximum 3 page. I won't cross that. Don't write too much because it'll create a lot of confusion, right? Come to the point very straight, and at the same time build the link. Don't write too much actually. Too much actually create a lot of questions. That's what my experience says. They'll get confusion actually. So come to the intro very straight, and whenever we are writing intro, so what I generally do, intro I'll make paragraph 5 paragraph. Probably you can say around 4 to 5 paragraph. First para, very short para, okay, I'll tell you. First para, I'll talk about the introduction. I'll talk about the area in general. I'll introduce the area where online marketing means. I'll say that online marketing is getting prominent attention in recent years, and these are the marketing techniques I'll introduce. And there mostly I'll try to cite very recent references, very recent, because that shows that you are updated with the area, and the sense you also cited the most recent works means that you are so updated. Is it so? Right? And afterwards, I'll try to introduce the gap. We call it as gap. Gap means, what is not addressed in the literature. Is it so? What is not addressed in the existing literature, that I'll slightly come down. I'll address the research gap. And I'll also justify the gap. Why addressing this gap is important. For example, I'll say that though there has been studies in the domain, and this particular aspect is not studied in the literature, However, studying this aspect is important in literature because of the reason. I need to justify using literature. I need to justify my gap or allowance of the gap based on literature. I need to just why addressing this particular gap is important. That would be probably my second paragraph. You can say that. Followed by that, probably I'll introduce hence my research objective. You don't need to put 1, 2, 3 or something like that. Rather, you can say first, second, third or something like that. I'll introduce my research objectives. Small paragraph about, what are the contribution of this study in the sense, theoretical and practice, slight, a small paragraph. For example, I'm trying to say these are my research objective. Thus, this study is actually contributes to theory and practice in the following ways: first, second, third, something like that. Just after that, I'll give a very small paragraph about subsequent sections of the paper. The remaining section, what I'm trying to do. For example, I'll say that, followed by the introduction, I'm presenting a small literature review, and thereafter introducing the hypothesis, methodology, and presenting the results. And finally, we are presenting the conclusion, implications, something like that. I'll give a very small paragraph detailing the subsequent sections of my paper. With that, my intro will be over. I try to limit the introduction within max 3 pages. Max 3 pages, right? So after completing the intro, and look at the page restrictions, right? That's the word restrictions demanded by the journal. Thereafter, probably what I can do, I will look at the literature. If the journal demands 12,000 words paper, I can present the literature in detail. If the journal demands 6,000 words paper, I'll skip the literature. Rather, I will do literature and theoretical development together. So it means that I'll club the literature with hypothesis. I'll write, because my objective is to provide a very small summary of hypothesis, and that I'll link the literature also. And after presenting the literature come hypothesis, probably what you can do, you can present the methodology. And methodology talk about, the methods actually done in terms of data collection and sampling. And look at some of the previously published papers. For example, you are using a survey. Look at how the previously published papers presented this, research methodology, whether you are using similar kind of methodology or not, how they presented it. I mean, I'm talking about a beginner, right? Beginner, don't write anything from your mind. Look at other papers, because you read so many papers, right? You look at some of the papers which you identify that these are the best papers in the domain. Accordingly, you just try to articulate. I mean, don't copy and paste. Rather, you try to articulate in your mind and present it. And so that whenever a new person reads the paper, and they will find that, it's like a new methodology, right? It's not a new methodology, but the structure, everything is fine. And followed by the results. And again, look at what kind of data analysis you are using. Think about how do you present the data analysis. For example, there is a paper, they actually use regression. In that paper, they beautifully presented some tables, figures, and all, very limited tables and figures and all. You also think of presenting these kind of tables, figures, and also that try to interpret only necessary input or output, so that you can test the hypothesis. That is result. Only relevant, actually. Some people, what they do, they will copy paste all the results, and they will interpret everything. Don't do that. That's not a good strategy. Look at some of the previously published paper. What are the results they presented to discuss about their study and what kind of analysis they presented. Only present, and make sure that you are customizing the tables and figures. Don't copy paste the tables as such. Customize it, right? Customization in the sense, you have very exhaustive list of results. If you look at any software platform, for example, SPSS. If you look at SPS, you have very exhaustive list of tables and figures, right? Please don't copy paste everything. So followed by that, presentation results, you can have a discussion of the results, right? You're discussing the results. So what is discussion of the results? So whatever results you got, you are discussing how these results are unique or relevant, and try to discuss with based on previous literature. For example, you are trying to say that following hypothesis 1, we actually checked it and we found the results as such, and these results are actually in concur with the previous studies, such as this something like that, trying to or differ from previous study this way. So try to link with the previous studies and discuss the results. Don't discuss anything outside the results. Some people make intuition. Please don't do that. Discussion is not a space to make intuition. Discussion is a space to present your results or discuss your results, right? Discuss it. And followed by that, some people present managerial implication and theoretical implication. Theoretical implication, managerial implication means theoretically how this study is relevant. Theoretically, how the study add values to existing literature. For example, you are trying to study or say that I have tested this hypothesis, and probably this hypothesis or the findings of the study adds values to academics in this way. Academics. And also, how do you, you also discuss that how these results add value to practice, And that is specifically required in management research or in social science practice. Some studies will write actually the policy level implication, the contribution. Policy level also you can introduce if you have any policy level implications. And finally, we can write the limitation and directions for future research. Limitations and direction for future research. So many times people write limitations as such. They will say that my study we consider student sample. Now, don't do limitations as such. Rather, I will say that in our study we use student sample, it actually confirms the study findings. However, we request the future researchers study was based on original or real life sample of adult consumers or adult people, so that further external validity can be confirmed. So it means that every limitation you can suggest as a future research opportunity. Means you complement your limitation as a scope for future research. You understood the point? So it means that you can give directions accordingly, and 2 to 3 actually. So again, theoretical implication, 2 theoretical implication, 2 practical implication, plus limitation around 2 to 3 limitations, and followed by that you can prepare the references. And references, you look at the style. Is it following Chicago style, Harvard style? Look at the previously published papers. Also look at your journal webpage. Journal webpage, they will mention these are the reference style. Accordingly, you prepare, and again, my suggestion is you go through it, right? Series of times and edit it. And finally, if you are happy, then you submit the paper. Make sure that both the authors are ready, and you prepare the structure in a way that they demand the structure. And many cases, most of the journals, what they do, if you are not following the structure, they will send it back to the author again. You need to make sure that you're following the structure, then only they will accept your paper. And that is what the process of preparing and submitting, and you can submit your paper. Nowadays, almost all the journals got a manuscript portal, central, it's called as manuscript central. What is that? Manuscript central online system. Through that, you can submit. Generally, it'll take around 2 to 3 months, and some journals take 4 months also for the first round of review. Some journals, if they feel that the quality of the paper is not good, they will reject without even sending to reviewer. That we call it a desk rejection. A desk rejection without sending to reviewer, because the editor feels that there's no point in forwarding to reviewer. The quality is so bad. In that case, editor reject actually at the front itself. After just he reads the paper, he feel that the paper is not having high quality, he'll reject the paper. He will not even forward to reviewer. If he feels that the quality of the paper is good, then only he'll forward to reviewer. There will be minimum 2 to 3 reviewers, and it will go for around 3 to 4 rounds of review. And finally, if the reviewers are happy, and you will get an acceptance. That's what the process of paper publication. So I believe you all understood the process of doing it, right? Is it clear to you all? Right. Now, here, just after publication, just after acceptance, you will get a copyright agreement. And just after signing the copyright agreement, probably they will publish your paper in online. And thereafter, they will publish in offline with the volume and issue. Right? That's the process nowadays all the journals follow. Right. So I believe so far it's clear to you. Is there any questions? Divya, content analysis, my suggestion to you is that it's a qualitative research, and many journals, qualitative, there is no hard and fast rule in terms of presenting the results, but look at some of the qualitative papers or journals who publish qualitative papers. Look at their style, probably that would give you some kind of understanding that how do you present the paper. That is always better. Again, look at different journals got different style. For example, some journals will give you some very basic idea about what they did, actually how they did and all. They will not provide you everything. And if you can present, or if you can prepare something accordingly, there will be great scope actually. I mean, my suggestion is always look at the journal, some of the published papers from the same journal, and look at the style, look at the presentation, look at the guidelines. And if you follow that, probably there is a high chance that you will get through, because some editors got some priority. Depends on the editor's priority, probably will get through. Anything else? Yes, if you want to ABDC is a ranking. I'll show you actually. So I believe you are all, ABDC is a ranking followed by some of the premium B schools in the country and the world. So ABDC general ranking. So you can type in Google ABDC general ranking. So it's got us here. You can get the ranking. And it got categories. Just give me a second. It's connecting. Just give me a second. So it ranked journals into A star, A, B, and C. Right? A star is a very top tier, just like Q1, which we discussed. Right? A is slightly below, B is slightly below, and C is the inferior quality journals. Right? Give me a second. Now it's not connecting. So you can type in Google ABDC general ranking. You will get into the web page. There you will get a space to search. You can do a search. There is also an Excel file there on the site. From there you can download it. Then you can locate whether the journal is part of ABDC. And again, I'll tell you what is the beauty of ABDC. In India, at least some of the very premium schools in the country follows ABDC general ranking. And that is a quality criteria, and across the world also they are following. But some business schools in the world, they follow another ranking called as ABS ranking, especially ABDC is for Australian schools, and US and all, especially is for management discipline. Okay, in US and all, they are following ABS ranking, ABS. I didn't understand what is troll images in the sense. I didn't understand.
So it's some kind of images, change the position.
Sorry. Can you repeat?
It will be like we are submitting our would be like if it will be they show the images like like.
Oh, not clear. Tony, there are some recommendation, review paper recommendations. Probably there are different types of reviews, systematic literature reviews there, and narrative reviews there, and depends on that it will change. And nowadays systematic literature review is very popular. Probably there are some literature review suggestion papers. Actually, you can follow that paper accordingly. You can prepare. Again, lot many model papers you will find in Science Direct and all. I didn't understand actually. Bibo MS, what you said actually, sir. Troll images and all. I mean, Tony, look at because it's very tough to tell you within a minute or something like that. Rather, you can add in a lot many papers, which is model papers you can find. Model in the sense, there are some suggestions or recommendations there in different journals they publish. Journals publish recommendation for publishing literature reviews. Probably you can read and understand, and you can follow that. And again, nowadays, literature review, systematic literature reviews are very popular, very popular. Meta is another literature review, but it's quite tough to do. Meta is well accepted, but the problem is that requirements. First one is actually meta analyzing the results. If only empirical paper can be considered meta. Any more? And non-empirical papers systematically and present it. But meta-analysis actually analyzes only empirical papers. And in meta, we don't require too many literature papers, too many empirical papers. We can have a meta with 20, 25 around. but systematic literature reviews require relatively higher number of, and it can have both qualitative and quantitative paper. In systematic literature review, you can include both qualitative and quantitative papers, but meta view requires only quantitative papers. That's the difference. And both are actually type of literature review. Which popular concept-based content this one content analysis is actually very popular. Qualitative or quantitative, that depends on you. You can easily club actually quantitative aspects in your content analysis. There is no issue. You can convert the value, but still it's fine actually. But the popularity is not very good actually. That's the reason actually. So if you very limited number of papers, published papers only with content analysis. So publishing, getting into top journal only with content analysis is quite tough. That's what I'm saying. If you can use both content analysis plus surveys, it will be good. That's simply using only content analysis. Okay, any more questions? Yeah, so I believe you understood a little bit about this domain, and I please understand that it's quite difficult to give you everything within 2 hours because you can understand it's an ocean, right? Is it? So I just gave you a gist of it. Probably as a beginner, what about plagiarism? I'll tell you. Nowadays there are different softwares, and which we use. There is a software called Turnitin. There are some other softwares also available. Journals are very much worried about whenever you are trying to look at your plagiarism. You make sure that when you're writing one onwards, there is some idea which you take actually. Please make sure that you are rewriting the idea and citing the respected author or respective author, so that the plagiarism will not happen. Again, make sure that a percentage, generally top tier journals, I'll tell you, less than 10 is fine, but single source plagiarism should not exceed 1%. Single source, you understood the point, right? For example, all the 10%, that 10% is there in your draft. The 10% is from one single source, then they won't tolerate. So make sure that 10 is okay, but single source plagiarism is actually less than 1%. Right? Is it fine? We'll stop it here. Yeah. It's fine.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We'll meet again sometime, right?
Yes, sir. For the vote of thanks, now I would like to invite Dr. Mary Paul Sargent, Head of Department of English, Prajyoti Niketan College.
Right.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Resource person of the day, Dr.Sreejesh S., Founder Managing Director, Principal, Dr. Shaijan Paul, IQAC Coordinators, Dr. Simi Verghese and Dr. Binu P. Chapo, delegates and student participants. I am here to present a very enriching and a very informative session by Dr. Sreejesh S., Assistant Professor, IIM Kozhikode. At the very outset, in concise and clear terms, Dr. Sreejesh gave us a bird's eye view of what we could expect, the need to publish in scholarly journals, how we could select suitable scholarly journals, how we could select suitable journals, how we could write a paper, and the inevitable evaluation process that should ensue. Promoting a research culture in an academic environment is the need of the hour, and Dr. Sreejesh addressed this thrust area, not from the author's point of view, but also from the reader's point of view. All the key questions that may pose problems for research scholars were covered in the excellent session. Dr. Sreejesh, on behalf of the IQAC of Prajyoti Niketan College, I thank you for the erudite and very valuable session.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your invitation.
I also thank our manager, Dr. Harshajan Paryatal, and our principal, Dr. Shaijan Paul, in their absence, for the support and encouragement that they have always extended towards us. The IQAC coordinators, Dr. Simi Verghese and Dr. Binu Pichako, are at the helm of affairs, organizing valuable programs to enhance the quality of education in the college. Thank you. Warm words of gratitude are also due to all the IQAC members, the delegates who attended the session, and the student participants. Wish you all a very pleasant afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful session.